Okay, good evening, Tanaya. How are you doing?
Good evening. It's been wonderful. Life's good, and I'm rocking.
Fantastic. So, welcome to this event, Leaders and Libraries, and thank you for accepting the invitation and coming on board.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Very unique concept, and I think it's a fun way of learning and collaborating with what you've read with
Mm,
real life
mm.
incidents.
Absolutely. Super. So, before we get started on the book that you have chosen, which millions and millions of people have read, and I was actually having a smile when you said to me that this is the book I'm going to talk about. I said, wow, the book is being celebrated for 25 years of existence, and you have the guest really wanting to talk on that book. When primarily people are saying, I'm going to pick up some transformation leadership book and something which is big and strategic and all this stuff, you have picked up a fable that has brought in crazy leadership lessons for so many years in so many languages, right? So I was very happy to see that book. Before we get started and do some justice to that book, let me have the honor of introducing you to the audience, right? So, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, whichever part of the world you're going to be listening to the guest of the day. All of you are part of Leaders and Library Season 1, and you had 33 guests coming and talking on 22 powerful books. Season 2, we have 40 leaders from the global platform coming and talking on 40 powerful books. And all these leaders are from the world of HR, OD, business, C-suite, and multiple spaces. And today we have yet another guest, Dr. Tanaya Mishra. I'm so happy and glad to have her as the guest today. She is the global CHRO, SR Group, 25 years plus of solid experience across manufacturing, retail, BFSI on the global platform. She's also recognized as someone who leads and has built or is building future-ready agile workforce, been awarded as one of the best CHROs of India, and also as one of the top 40 Asia's most aspirational women leaders, among many other accolades that she has. She's also a doctorate in manpower planning, which is fabulous. A regular speaker, you would see her on LinkedIn on multiple forums. She talks on topics like what I have followed is design thinking. She talks on HR and strategy. She talks on workforce management kind of areas, what I have seen her on LinkedIn. And I said I should definitely have her as a guest. Beyond all this big thing for all of you that I'm introducing you to, for me personally, she is a crazy book lover. Hence, I would love to have her and she's here. So thank you so much, Tanaya, for coming on.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you for the kind words.
I have picked it from LinkedIn, so you have done it, so people need to know who you are. Fabulous. Super. Okay, so let's get started. I'm rubbing my hands to create some heat here. Let's start with the first interesting question. How early did the association of books start for you?
Actually, I come from a family which loves books.
Mm-hmm.
So, as a child, everybody read, and everybody in the family are still voracious readers. And I'm
Mm-hmm.
really not as voracious as I used to be.
Mm-hmm.
But while we were growing up, it was Enid Blyton, so the Secret Seven and the Noddies and the Famous Fives. And then it was Nancy Drew and
Lovely
Hardy Boys
days.
and then Perry Mason and one kind of just went on.
Yeah.
I think it slowed down as work got more and more
Mm-hmm.
active, and one had to keep up, and so I think one really lost the kind of touch with books. But yes,
Mm-hmm.
one kept abreast, but not the way one would like.
Mm-hmm. All right. And when you went off on the Nancy Drews and Famous Voice of the World, and thanks for bringing the nostalgic days because I remember the Tinkles and Chanda Mamas as well, along with these books, right? And also the Amar Chitra Kathas and Panchantantras, and I just love them. How did your evolution move on to the management books, leadership books, and how did books play a role in your growth? Today, you're sitting at the hem of affairs, looking at the organization and have a complete balcony view of the system. So, this growth, how has book played a significant
Look, books are something which talks about experience. They give you real wise nuggets of how to go. They give you perspectives.
role?
And from reading books, one went to reading articles,
Mm,
understanding what is relevant. And so, what helps is picking up the nuggets because there's enough and more books. There are people who love to read and
mm,
use that. Some use and some probably not use as much, and they
mm,
filter the information.
mm,
I would pick up things which are relevant
mm,
and can be used
mhm,
and use it to make a difference. So there are two things. One is that you read and you understand what is happening, the
Mm.
trends, and put that into practice, but something which is adaptable to the environment that you are in.
True, true, true,
So you
true.
can't be a bull in a china shop. You have to ensure that it is relevant to the culture of the organization.
Absolutely, absolutely. I think what you said made sense, that usage of the book is very important, and it completely resonates to what I do, because this is what I run as a business model. And I keep telling people that do not look at any book as just a night book read where you hit the bed at 10 p.m. and just read for 20 minutes before you go down to sleep. Every book written by these authors on leadership are researched for 15, 20 years, and they've got techniques and tools and templates and messages that you can pick and apply. And if you apply, you will see the benefit of it. So I think every book is workable and applicable. It's just, as you rightly said, some of them do it, some of them do not do it.
Agree. Completely agree.
So among all the books, what made you go back to this fable of leadership, Alchemist?
The Alchemist. I read that while I was growing up. It was a book which was interesting in the sense that it had a story,
Yeah.
and then it had a lot of nuggets of wisdom,
Hmm.
which is the power of the universe, of trying to understand. You get a gut feel about things which are happening, and you watch out for those
Hmm.
things which are happening.
True.
So it's about this young boy, this shepherd, who's
Yeah.
kind of who's always dreaming and wanting things. And then, of course, I can go about the story, but it's about the power of what you want to achieve, and
Hmm.
putting that seed into the universe for you to bring it back. And that's really the reality of how things are today.
Lovely, lovely. And I remember the author goes on saying that when he wrote the book sitting in Brazil, and when it was sent to the shop, the shopkeeper said, "Ye kahan bikne wala hai?" And then he said, "Okay, give me 10 copies." He kept it. The first copy got sold, and the second one got sold only in the seventh month. And that was the speed in which it was happening. Then one fine day, the shopkeeper comes and tells Paulo, saying, "You know what? There was somebody who came in and said, give me 3 copies of that." And thereon the journey started, and today it's in multiple languages. And what a fable of leadership for me. I mean, it's beautiful. So. Absolutely. Now, when you read it in your age and when I read it earlier, you also love visualizing those, scenes, what Santiago went through, and all this stuff, right? But today I'm going to restrict it from very powerful leadership lessons, and that's the purpose of this conversation, so that young leaders listening to you, Tanaya, can go back and pick up this book if they have not read it. I think it's a loss of time for leaders who have not read this book at all, and I can tell this very, very categorically. It's a powerful book. So I've picked up a couple that have been great lessons for me, and I'm sure there are many that you would have. But let's talk about these five, six of them. All right, the first one, which I love, is the book kind of brings in this very strong lesson from this boy and the story that fear is the biggest obstacle than the fear itself. One powerful learning that I had. How do you interpret this, and how have you used it to your advantage in life? And you talk about usage of books. I'm assuming you would have used Alchemist in multiple turns and twists of your life.
Look, the fear of what is going to happen is always there. And
Mm,
let me just share that with you. I come from a small city, or that time used to be a very small city called Cuttack. I studied in Cuttack, grew up in Cuttack, and then I suddenly came to Bangalore after getting married, and then to Mumbai.
mm,
And then, of course, it was, I'm from Utkal University and proudly say that. I mean, the qualification is probably as good as anywhere that it gets, but it doesn't
mm.
give you a job because it's a government organization,
Yeah.
right? A government institution. Um, I was, when I came here and I was competing with the TISs of the world, the
Correct.
XLRIs and the FMSs and the XISs. But it's about trying and pushing yourself and not being fearful of the fact that, hey, I'm from a university which is probably
Mm,
not as recognized.
mm.
I do not have the university. We wouldn't have the funds to get in, pre-placement offers or
Yeah.
internships. So I'm someone who did it by myself. I
Mm.
did not have any godfather. I did not have a great brand, nothing. It's just that about ensuring that you have confidence in yourself, which therefore suppresses the fear element and puts you out there.
Yeah. Lovely, lovely. So that's the message to the young minds, that where you come from doesn't really matter, right? It's about the confidence that you show that can probably help them to suppress their own fear, right? Now, what are one or two things you think the young mind should start doing? Because they're also in a crazy race as against what it was when you started your career.
Absolutely. So there are a couple of things. One is that be open, because you never know what kind of opportunity are coming your way. So never, but whatever comes your way, pick that up.
True.
Because you never know if something's going to get better. For instance, youngsters who are starting out in life and want to become engineers. Maybe you'll not get the IIT that you want. Maybe you will not get the fancy degree that you want. Maybe you've got something that is just a plain vanilla engineering college. It's fine, doesn't matter. Pick that up. What you do with your life is what matters.
True.
And after a certain point in time, where you passed out from, nobody really asks. It's just a passport.
True.
It's about what you become. So same goes for management institutions, or for that matter, any degree. A degree is just for you to,
the first door to open.
Yes, it opens a door for you. But it's about hard work. So I think what I want to tell you is that it's about hard work. It's about being agile. It's about networking. It's about ensuring that you keep developing your skills.
Yeah.
Because things are moving, and what they were moving during my age, the pace at which they were moving is getting very, very fast.
Absolutely.
So you have to keep up with that pace.
True.
And there's something else that I want to tell these youngsters is that, look, don't necessarily opt out for just the professional, the beaten tracks of what we went through. Look at opportunities which you love and make a living out of it. So that way, it's something which you will attract, you will enjoy what you're doing, and still earn your lifestyle. Because jobs, are going to get limited now with AI coming in.
And the advantage for them is there are very many available as against what it was when we started. It was only the doctors and engineers, or koi chartered accountant ban jata tha, bada padha likha ladka ladki hai. That's all. That's how it was. Right. Today, I'm an engineer of my family because my father had this pride to call me as the first engineer of my family. I keep asking my dad, I don't know what I did with the engineering degree. God alone knows. Got my first job and threw it after 6 months, saying I can't live my life talking to machines. I have to be with people. But the fact is, today there is enough and more. Right. I think, as you rightly said, do not look, I'm going to pick this, pick that. Pick anything that comes your way, because you never know, like a boomerang, it may come back and help you in any part of your life. That was a very powerful message, Tanaya. Absolutely. So in that journey for all of them, all the leaders, plus also the young ones, one learning that this book brings out is the fact that embrace the present. All of us know that one leg is in the past and one leg is aspiration towards the future. How does one train himself or herself to think that I embrace the present, and what could be the advantage for a leader in doing that?
See, it's about embrace the present, but be proactive rather than being reactive, and also dream. This entire book was about dreaming and achieving something big. So you have to dream. So what you are today, not necessarily you will be there, or rather you will probably not be there. So it's about dreaming big, trying to understand what can I get? What can I do to make it bigger and more aspirational? So I think that is really the theme of the book Alchemist, where he's a dreamer, he's on his journey, wanting to go to different places. So it's about us. We have to be a little restless in life to understand, okay, what next? What do I do next? So I think there are 2 or 3 pieces to this. One is about understanding where you are, what you're capable of, getting a reality check.
Sure.
2 is about dreaming, and dreaming what you would like. And therefore, what are the resources or the networks that you need to move there? So that's the bridge that you build. And finally, moving there. So this is exactly what the hero did, Santiago, what he actually did. And that's how Alchemist is all about. And that's why that theme and that message is so powerful. And that will always be the case, immaterial of the generation that you are in. Yours, younger, people just coming out. It's always going to be true.
True. I think it's very generation agnostic. Now tell me, I know one of the awards that I read about you introducing was 40 India's top 40 aspirational women. So you said about aspiration. So I'm going to link these to ask you a question. What was your dream, Tanaya? Was it to sit as a CHRO of an organization sometime in life?
Okay,
Or
let
was
me
it
tell
some
you.
other dream like Santiago and you saw it going through those journeys and finally you reached where you are?
Okay, when I was in school, I just knew that I wanted to work. I had no idea what I wanted to do.
Mhm,
Then, um, then as I was growing up, I learned. Somebody told me about. I had gone to watch a play. My mother was a
mhm,
professor, and somebody told me about basketball. I started playing basketball, and I played in the nationals when I was probably in class 8 or 9.
mhm.
While I was at the basketball ground, I heard about NCC, and that's how I became a best cadet and represented India and became first in the Indo-Canada Youth Exchange and went
Wow.
to Canada. Yeah.
Mhm,
So I think it's about the environment that we are in. It's about the environment that we are in and what we imbibe and what we want to do and what are the elements that you
mhm,
want to take to move to the next level. So
mhm.
um, I never thought that I would be a CHRO, never did. So, small town person, always wanted to know that I would do something which was relevant to make my.
Right.
There was peer pressure because everybody in the family was a very good student. They were all from IIMs and IITs and XLRIs, and I was an art student, right? And there was always pressure at home saying that, oh, these are all brilliant children, and because I was busy playing national team basketball and NCC, and I'm also a class. I'm on Odissi dance. I'm a postgraduate in Odissi now,
Wow.
so I kept doing these kind of things. Um, but today I think I'm having the last laugh because
I was about to say that now with all the accolades and the doctor that you have earned, your parents, everybody would say कि हाँ हमारे फैमिली पैदा हुई लड़की है कहीं नर्स ने गलत बच्चे को नहीं उठा के लेके आया because उसने भी पढ़ लिया
yeah, absolutely,
Yeah,
absolutely. So
lovely, lovely.
I just had, I just decided that I would push, immaterial of where I came from Cuttack to Mumbai, where everything is so fast, and people are out there, and they speak well, they dress, in a suave fashion. So it's about what you build, what you want to do,
True.
and
What you're saying, Tanaya, brings this very strong point which you said earlier that pick anything that comes your way. You picked up a basketball, you picked up NCC, you picked up multiple things after that, I'm sure. And that has kind of paved the way towards ये कुर्सी जहां पर आप बैठे हो, this was not your destination point that you wanted to be, but landed you here. Yeah.
correct.
That's a great message to all the young guys listening to her. Pick up anything that comes your way, guys. You never know कहाँ जाके कहाँ क्या काम आएगा. It can just be of use to you. Nothing of it would be of any waste ever in life. So just go on and pick it up. Like my dad keeps saying that हर छोटी चीज का कहीं ना कहीं इस्तेमाल होता है. Never look at any small thing as waste. पता नहीं किसका क्या काम आएगा. And he gives me a fantastic explanation saying that when something gets stuck in your tooth, that's when you realize the power of a toothpick. And if you don't have a toothpick, you get any gadget in the world, you cannot pull out the damn thing which is stuck in your teeth. So toothpick is not which is trivial. It's a fundamental weapon to clean up your tooth. So that's a great lesson that he gave me. I think you're also pretty much talking about that. Pick up anything. It could be of any use any time in the journey. Thank you so much. That brings me very logically to the next question. That this book also talks about the fact that success has a ripple effect. How powerful is this lesson? And how early did you understand this effect and started working, creating that ripple and impact?
Look, I didn't really understand it the way that it said, but yes, it does have. But what that success does is also mold other people around you.
Uh,
And I'm very happy and proud to share that some of the people who reported to me at some point in my career are all HR heads.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
So it was difficult for them when they were growing up, and they probably cursed me and they probably had tears in their eyes, but today they all thank me for what they are today, so
Mm.
that's something which is really excellent. That's so that really is the ripple effect. And also it's about what you do in organizations, what
Mm.
is been your take, and how well have you done something, because then when you go back and people recognize you for the kind of work that you have done, it's a very gratifying feeling. If I walk into shoppers, people recognize you and they do their little bit by, probably moving along with you, chatting with you, or
Sure.
shopping along with you, or helping you shop. I think that's excellent. Or when I walk into Wholesome or ACC and they say, you put this assessment center, this is where I am. So it's very gratifying.
Clarify. Absolutely. Absolutely. I think that ripple effect also has a reverse effect on you, right? It helps you to push yourself further, isn't it? It's very inward, outward, plus also it's got an effect on you. The environment throws back at you, right?
I agree with that. In fact, I was going to say, as a sequel to what you said, you can't rest on your past laurels. You've got to keep pushing. For instance, today I've just finished doing coaching. I've just finished doing IOD, being an independent director on boards. I'm trying to see what I can do next. I'm trying to pick up something on analytics. And tomorrow we're speaking on something very interesting. It's going to be a 3D virtual effect where we're supposed to be avatars and we're supposed to be going a route of, I think it's Florence that they are planning to do. So it's about constantly reinventing yourself, constantly pushing yourself, constantly understanding what can I do next.
True, 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 true. I think it's so powerful because uh, I was reading this book after many years. I'm sure you would have read the book Atomic Habits of James Clear. Beautifully talks about the fact that many people look at their thought process of creating habits is result oriented. There is a result I want to achieve, hence I'm going to do this and I'm going to do this. But in the book, he kind of twists it. He says it's not about result. You drive it in terms of what you want to be. And if you look at it from there, the entire paradigm changes completely. Here, what you're talking is pretty much same, right? Every time wanting to reinvent yourself is there is some unquenched want of wanting to be something, the better version, the better version, the better version, right? Such a big drive and ripple effect it creates, isn't it?
Very true.
True, true. It's making me think. Absolutely. Thank you so much. This also brings me to the fact that every time you pick up something, try to do something and create a version two. A very simple fundamental learning that I got from this book is it also teaches us to take decisions at the right time, the right decisions. Talk a little about that, Tanaya. How did decisions help you through your journey of leadership?
Decisions are something which everybody has to take in middle of what you do, where you are, in middle of whether you are a housewife or a teacher or a janitor somewhere. And it's those decisions that can make or break you. So the power of taking decisions is to take a calculated decision based on the pros and cons, what is best for you, not what people tell you. A lot of times we get swayed by what our parents tell us. Of course, I did. Of course, I've landed well, but not necessarily everybody lands well. And so did you, for that matter. You became an engineer. So I think it's about taking informed decisions, which are keeping what you are as a person, what
Mm.
your wishes are, what your dreams are, where do you want to go. I think that's very important, and those decisions, can take you. You can probably become the Prime Minister of India.
True,
So I think it's that which is very important.
So I'm going to ask you a question. I expect you to give me a fable kind of an answer, right? We're talking about a fable book. If you can think, and this was not prepared, but I'm going to ask you this. Would you be able to tell us, and the young minds listening to you, one situation in life that happened where it was a tough decision, but you took a step back, paused, looked at the entire situation, and took a decision. And today, in hindsight, it was one of the best decisions for
Many times it's happened to me twice actually. So one was when I was working with a large multinational. My father was unwell, and I was supposed to go abroad to pursue that. And I decided that as a daughter, I need to take care of my parents. So what I did is I was all ready to pack and move. It was Switzerland, so everything was going to be fantastic. We'd worked out everything, finalized the house. But then I took a step back and I said, no, my parents are more important than anything else.
you. Lovely.
So I decided to look for an Indian opportunity. I spoke to the CEO. He was a wonderful Swiss gentleman. And I decided not to pursue that and got my parents and stayed. I lost my father in 2014.
Sorry.
And then was another big decision where I was this, again, a very large role looking after a lot of people across a number of countries. And my mother had a stroke, and that's when I decided that probably it was best to look after my mother and quit. So I quit a very large corporate job to look after her. Um, and I didn't take up any other assignment, although there were quite a few that came during that time. I've never regretted that decision. So sometimes in life, you've got to take that decision. That's really what it is.
Interesting. I mean, that's. I mean, they were tough decisions. It looked during those times, but today, in the long run, I think they were the right decisions to be taken.
I
I mean,
agree.
so many young minds. Most of them, I won't say most of them. Many of them, they take decisions. But as going by your story and incident, many of them take decisions. There is an element of regret or a guilt on the decision that they have taken, which I keep telling, don't. I'm sure you also would be addressing the same to many of your young leaders.
Mm.
How does one kind of come out of that? Say, you know what, I've taken a decision, now it's going to be only futuristic for me. Let me not go through the guilt trip or a regret of having taken that. That's a very, very tough situation or a tough thought process in the head, right? I'm sure it would have been for you also.
Decisions are never easy.
Hmm.
And once you have taken them, you can stick to them. Of course, again, that also you do not necessarily have to stick to the decision. You can
Yeah.
definitely get around to doing something else if that doesn't really suit you. So there's nothing, that you put an ego out there and say, oh, I'm not going to change or swap my decision. So you can. So it's about you ultimately and what works for you and what doesn't work for you. And
Mhm.
there's always a little bit of, just as in the fable, a little bit of luck, a stroke of luck, just like the
Yeah.
gypsy woman had told him.
कुछ पाने के लिए कुछ खोना पड़ता है.
Exactly.
Yeah. And I love this powerful dialogue that was it Bazigar dialogue which powerfully says कुछ कुछ हार कर जीतने वाले को बाजीगर कहते हैं. I think it's a very powerful dialogue that stayed with me for many years. You know, you lose somebody, you win so much, right? So I think today you've been one of the lucky daughters who've been able to take care of parents. I know I'm sure I meet so many old parents who live in my community where they had to do the woodwork in their house and they had connected with an interior designer that I connected with them because they're an old couple. The only thing that the son and daughters had sent were money from abroad and they had to manage everything to get that woodwork done. I was feeling so bad internally because I'm one of those blessed sons who live with my parents, and I definitely wanted my children to grow with my parents because growing with grandparents is phenomenal, and I miss that in my growing stages. I could relate to what you said completely on an emotional platform. I mean, you're one of those blessed people, Tanaya, I'm sure. Yeah, not many are. Believe me on that. That takes me to the next one, right? Which is very linked. What is happening is the conversation is very sequential. I'm loving this. This was not planned, but it's happening. So thank you for making it so flowy. The next powerful lesson, which is one of the biggest lessons for me of this book, is what is true will always endure.
But what is true will
What is
always
true will always endure.
true.
How do you interpret this very powerful, very philosophical phrase? And how should leaders capitalize on this? Not looking at it as a philosophical statement, but something which is still practical to think and work on.
See, there are two aspects to this. One, that the truth will always endure is a very powerful statement. But today there is a lot of shades of gray. Um, and today the corporate world is not what it was. While there are leaders that walk the talk, but there are a lot of shades of gray,
I
and
agree.
one has to cope with that gray. So that, that the hare and the rabbit story, that rabbit and the tortoise story
Not a
when
story.
we were growing up, or that truth shall always prevail, or hard work will always pay off. There is a twist around it, and the sooner we get it, the easier it is.
Hmm.
Um, it's about living by one's own values and your value systems and not diluting that value system.
Mm.
But there will be people who come along in your way who don't necessarily believe in that value system, right?
Okay.
So, so it's about how do you tread
That's the right word.
and how do you ensure that while you keep your value system intact, but how do you move through this labyrinth, right? Um, but it happens. One can do it, and that's how people do survive. Because you see, the world is full of different kinds of people. So if we expect that everybody is going to be honest and truthful and absolutely righteous,
Doesn't happen.
sorry, that is only a fable then.
So you spoke about values, Manayas. I'm going to ask you this. What are the two non-negotiable values that has always been that twig that you always held on and reached the shore even in turbulent waters?
Do not compromise on the quality of the work that you are doing. Two is always be ethical. It's very easy to lose ground, but I've always stood by these two principles. They're
All,
etched.
and it has always helped you to stay afloat, isn't it?
Yes, absolutely.
Absolutely. I think it makes tremendous sense, Tanaya, to what you said earlier. In the current grey corporate world, which is becoming grayer by the day, I think being ethical is a very powerful value that very young leaders should start picking up very early and probably live that as a non-negotiable value system. I think it'll do a lot of good to them as it did to you and many others. Thank you. Thank you for that. This brings me to the next one, right? Aspiration is what you spoke about. And one lesson from this book is all about being very unrealistic, like the protagonist of the book is. How does being unrealistic about life and want to become something help us in our growth? Because there is an element of realism. I can't dream to become the Prime Minister of India. I mean, it's stupid, and it's Rajiv, you're foolish. But in that realm, how do I still be unrealistic and work towards something for myself?
Look, it's about dreaming,
Hmm.
and not necessarily that all dreams come true, but there is always that you reach somewhere. Let's also remember that our prime minister was used to serve tea once upon a time.
Yeah.
Let's also remember that Mr. Ambani used to sell petrol at the petrol station, once upon a time. So, but they all dreamt big.
Hmm.
For some, it happens, but some it doesn't. But you will reach somewhere. And when you dream, earlier we could have just one dream and just one plan A that we followed.
Hmm.
Today's generation have to have plan A, plan B, and plan C.
Right.
So that if one doesn't happen, there is another route. And if that doesn't happen, there's a third. So it's about ensuring that there is backup to the backup. That is what will make people successful and not spend so much time regretting what they did
Hmm.
or what did not happen.
So are you saying that the young leaders should be unrealistic and aspiration about what they want to do with a backup plan in place?
Yes, yes, yes,
And it'll be
yes,
foolish to do that without a backup plan.
yes, yes. Because then when you fall very hard,
Hmm.
and there will be, and then to become a phoenix and to rise up again will not be easy.
Sure.
Very, there are people who've done it. I have done it. When I quit and I was really consulting, and then I was a lot of people, a lot of my colleagues who decided to quit and are wanting to come back haven't been able to. So a little bit of element of luck there, God's blessings and parents' blessings also there. But it's about coming back as well.
Yeah. So tell me, with this, do you also have this still in you that the day you hang your boots in the corporate life, you would want to get into some entrepreneurship journey of yours and do something different? Is that part of a plan A or a B or a C for Tanaya?
It is. Absolutely. So, like I was sharing with you, so you never know when the corporate journey is going to become, either good for you, rather, end up in a way that you don't want to be there, or they don't want to be there. That's being realistic.
Mm-hmm.
So, yes, I do have a plan A, plan B, and plan C. I have got myself to do the coaching so that, I could be a coach, give back to society as well as earn something. I've also done the Institute of Directors training so that I could be an independent board of director somewhere. Maybe I'll start an entrepreneurial journey somewhere, So some of my colleagues have started a company. A lot of my Accenture colleagues have started, and I'm a mentor with them. And it's a good feeling. It's called Luminatic. So
Do that quick. We need people like you in the world of business and consulting. Enough of sitting in a cabin and managing an organization, Tanaya. Please jump over quick. Out on an open platform, or people are going to hit me now. But honestly, it's a lovely place to be, and we really want people who have that solid passion to do something and give it back to society. Not just work for that end of the day check kind of a work. And what I met you and what I've been talking with you, it'd be lovely to have somebody like you on this side. It'd be a great contribution to the corporate world with all that experience that you garner with yourself. I think it's a great place for you to come in. So we look forward for that day to you to jump on this side, Tanaya. That'd be fabulous. That was a lovely conversation. I can keep going on and on, but the format allows me a 45 minutes of time, and I don't want to delay you as well. I'm going to close this with the last question. With all that 25 plus years of experience and all that up and down that you've gone through, and those decisions that you've taken, the ripple effect that you've created, two razor sharp advices to the young leaders of today, what would they be? Razor sharp.
be flexible, be adaptable, learn to adjust, and always go with the flow and learn to keep changing. It's a VUCA world.
It's a VUCA world, absolutely. Thank you for bringing that. Be flexible, because one of my very close friends landed in Bangalore for an assignment for a client, and he just walked into the bookstore and he looked at a person who was walking with a trolley and wearing a suit and walking around. To his great surprise, it was Mr. Narayan Murthy himself. And this man had a training session the next day for very senior leaders, and we had a chat. And he asked Mr. Murthy, one lesson that you can give me, sir, that I'm going to talk about in tomorrow's session. He didn't bat an eyelid. He said, ask them to be flexible.
There you go.
Thank you, Tanaya, for that. Great minds think alike. So thank you so much. It was a pleasure having a conversation with you. I thoroughly enjoyed this. I hope you had a good time.
I did. Thank you very much for inviting me on the show. Thank you.
It was a pleasure. Look forward to seeing you sometime soon. Till then, you take care.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.